Hi, this is Andy and John from Car Repairs Made Easy, and today we're going to replace an upper control arm on a 2001 Ford Expedition. We have a worn ball joint. I believe we showed you this in a previous video, but we're going to try to show you the movement here, the ball joint. You can see it moving right here. That's the beginning of the wear. It's a good time to do it, so that's what we're doing. So what we've done already is we've jacked the truck up. We put a jack stand underneath the frame. Of course, that's safety. We have put our floor jack underneath the lower control arm to help relieve the pressure off the spring, because if you don't, then you're going to have the spring's going to push down, the lower control arm, big mess, problems. So the first thing we're going to do is to get this thing as close as possible before we have to send it to the alignment shop, is we're going to score the bolts for the upper control arm somewhere so we can get it back close. On this one, we're going to try to make a mark on the bolt head, or next to the bolt head, so we can get it real close. Just get you can use a pick, some kind of scribe, even a small screwdriver will work. Just scratch it a little bit to make a mark so you know where you want to put it back. That will get it real close so you don't have too many issues. We're going to do the other one. You can see here.
And the condition this vehicle's having is when it goes over small bumps, you hear a clunk noise in the front end, and it's that ball joint being loose.
And when we get this out, we'll show you the reason why we scored it, because it feels like there's a slot back there. Because usually they'll have to make the alignment adjustments up here, and that will change the alignment angles. So the closer you have it, the better for when you have to take it to the alignment shop. Okay, now that we've done that, what we need to do is we need to take the ball joint loose. If you can see underneath here, we have a cotter pin, this little pin here. We'll have to pull that out and take this nut off. So that's what we're going to do first. To get that off, just use a pair of dikes, or they work best, but even a pair of those pliers work good. We're going to straighten this thing out, push it back through. And once you get it started, if you can get your hand in there without blocking the camera, maybe a little tight, but you just grab a hold of it. That's why we use dikes, or wire cutters, they call them, or side cutters, because you can get a bite on it to pull it out. That's your cotter pin. Always replace these with new ones, because with them being bent, they fatigue and they'll break. Now we have a 21mm nut here. It's called a castle nut, and we'll show you that once it's off why it's called a castle nut. Some will have these nuts on them. Some will have nylon nuts, which are self-locking. Oh. Once you break it loose, you should be able to spin it off by hand. And here it is. It's called a castle nut. You can see the little slots up there. Kind of looks like the top of a castle. So that's why it's called a castle nut. So if you ever hear that term, you know what you're looking for.
The slots are in it for the cotter pin to keep it from turning.
Now we need to break this ball joint loose. You could just hit here with a hammer if you want. Maybe get lucky to break it loose. I don't know if we're going to get it with that on there, but what you want to do is you can use a pickle fork. That's what this is called. Where they get the name from, I don't know, but it's U-shaped. It should fit between here, between the steering knuckle and the control arm at the ball joint. You only want to use these if you plan on replacing it, because what will happen is sometimes it'll tear the rubber boot, and that's not good. Then you don't want to reuse it after that. How are we going to get in here? We have this dust cover here, which we're not going to need on the new one, so we're just going to get this out of the way. Yeah, this is not something that is absolutely required to be there. You'll see that this boot is all torn from the movement. You can see how that's all damaged. See how it's torn. When it tears, it loses its grease, and that helps give it extra, well, allows it extra movement. That's going to be enough for us to get in there. Slide your pickle fork in here. This is something that you can get from auto parts store. They usually loan them to you or rent them to you. And just take your hammer and hit it. All right, we need a more narrow one. I think I brought that. Get this in here. What this does is should separate the ball joint from the knuckle.
There we go.
There we are. That's on there pretty good. So
just need to pound it off later. Can't get it off. Just looks like the rubber's holding it.
As you can see how tore up that is. Oops. That's the reason why you don't want to use one of these unless you're replacing it. Otherwise, you're putting out a part, you're going to be putting it back together with a damaged part.
Now wiggle that around so you can see how loose it is.
See how loose that is?
That's no good.
That should not be like that. We'll show you what the new one looks like when we go to put it on, and you can see the comparison. All right, now what we need is our 21mm wrench. Actually, we're going to use two of them. Let me go around here. Up here at the control arm where it mounts the frame. Put one here. Get this one over here. You can also do this with a ratchet if you could fit it in there. These are going to be extremely tight. So you don't want them to be loose. That'll cause the control arm to move up there and move back to square one. We're just going to let this one rest against the control arm here so we don't have to hold it. It happens. Getting this thing loose. It's never fun to drop things, but sometimes I'm glad it happens when we're making our videos so that you can see everything doesn't go smoothly, even for experienced people like ourselves. So if you have a little trouble, it's nothing to be discouraged by. And we can just pull our bolt out. Make sure you notice the direction that the bolt's installed, because it's installed a specific way for a reason. This is for adjustments. Now that side's loose, we are going to...
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Okay, now we're going to remove the other side. And we're just going to pull this out. Oh, wow, that's tight. And this one will come out the same way as the other side. And once we have this out, then we'll come back and we'll show you the reason why we slotted the frame and compare the loose ball joint here to the new one before we install it.